Welcome, friends,
to the How-To Heretic.
I'm Uncle Mark.
And I'm Uncle Dan.
And I'm Uncle Doug.
And this is your user's guide to life on the outside.
That's right. Leaving religion is the first step into a larger, better world.
But it can also be a scary world. Things work differently now.
Never fear. That's why we're here.
We're your audio uncles. And with help from good friends and experts in all sorts of fields.
We're going to share the stories and seek the knowledge to build a great life.
After all, you only get one that we know of, so you'd better make the most of it.
Boom shakalaka. Fellas,
hello.
Howdy do.
Episode 97 of the what's it called? The How-To Heretic.
That's this one.
Yeah, that's this one. That's this one. And what steaming hot, some loving from the oven. Gonna have a good time today.
Yeah.
I'm talking about a black widow, a murder lady. You're gonna love it.
I love the idea of a murder lady. Why isn't that just a category in society?
Or in fiction.
A legal term.
And I'm doing part 2 of my cliffhanger of the Mormon inciting incidents.
Yes, indeed. More of them need to hang on the cliff.
That's right.
Maybe we can push them off this time. And then I'm going to terrify the other two uncles with a discussion about our religions, which we don't really have them. Don't worry. In spite of what every really clever, or at least every evangelical who thinks they're really clever, but in spite of what they believe, no, atheism is not a religion.
That's right.
That's right. And I think we're going to set out to prove that. I hope anyway.
Yeah. Well, we'll prove something. It'll probably just be that I'm an idiot, but that's okay.
Yeah.
Well, I'm still going to do it. I'm pressing forward. Oh, by the way, today's episode is sponsored by the Slap Chop. Slap and chop your way into health and good nature.
Slap chop.
That's fantastic, Slap Chop. Thank you. With our patrons in the Wonder Bible and Slap Chop, we're unstoppable.
Yes, indeed. They are giving us nothing, and we don't actually recommend their product. So that's good.
Without further ado, let's Slap Chop the show.
Toohoo! Uncle Dan?
Hey!
How are we doing today?
Here's the thing. I'm just... What I need is a smallish woman with a babushka on her head.
Well, okay.
I don't...
Knowing is half the battle.
Here's what's funny. That... Uncle Mark told us what he's going to be doing, and that's all that could come to my head. That's literally my imagination stopped at tiny Russian woman, and I don't know why. Uncle Mark, help me. What are you actually talking about?
You're going to be shockingly wrong about this particular woman.
Damn it!
So let me get into it, and this comes to us a very specific way. So you guys, we get a lot of requests, yeah.
Okay.
And as we're broadcast from coast to coast, pole to pole. Just after the dinner hour, we get a lot of eardrums in seats. And the good people those eardrums are attached to, our own beloved heretics, they have needs. They need for us to give them the latest breaking, the most up-to-date news about the what's goings-ons and the word on the street. What's the latest and greatest in this exciting new tech field called religion? What the fuck is it? What makes it tick? And how can they get in on this exciting bandwagon of fun and fulfillment? And sometimes those wants, those needs, those yearnings come through the ether back to us as requests. And one request that the guys down in the mailroom say is the most requested request of all the requests coming into How-To Heretic /requests /saints /bad bitch for real is the request for us to discuss this particular saint, which, due to the aforementioned blizzard of requests, and as the duly appointed Chief Saint Request Fulfillment Officer of the How-To Heretic Enterprises Unlimited, I shall do now. So, today, dear uncles, I shall bow to intense listener pressure and discuss a saint that is wilder and woollier than any of the $5 a week patronage saints we pull out of our sweet avuncular asses. Today, dear uncles, we discuss Saint Olga of Kiev.
Ooh. Damn it, I said Russian. Of course she's Ukrainian. I'm an idiot.
Well, she's pre-Ukrainian, pre-Russian, so you're not too far off the mark.
Well, it's not. What's the difference? If you ask the right person, like Vladimir Putin, there is no difference.
Right? Yeah, exactly.
That's true. That's true. They're together again at last. So, as you will see, my dear uncles, not even the diabolically masochistic Saint Teresa of Calcutta, as described in episode 64, can quite compete with the sheer steely murder of Saint Olga. And seriously, if you haven't listened to that segment on the ghastly Teresa of Calcutta, please do so immediately after this one to get a real sense of the kind of person Catholicism thinks deserves your undying veneration as a perfected being. So, as many of our listeners will no doubt know, the original white settlers of what is now where all of our votes are tallied, Russia, were the Rus people, who are essentially Vikings that found their way down from the Scandinavian region into the heart of what is now Russia, the Ukraine, Belarus, kind of that big blob of land, swampy land in the middle there.
Boy, I'll tell you what, if it wasn't for the Mongols and the Vikings, there wouldn't be any people anywhere.
It's kind of true. And the Mormons.
And we're all descended from all of them.
Exactly.
Yes. So these folks were very much pagan, and they carried their gods with them as they traveled south. So, friends of ours like Odin, Freya, Thor, etc.
Yeah.
One such person, Igor, was a prince of a group of people known as the Kievan Rus, whose father established the capital of this grouping of Viking tribes in Kiev, Kievan, now the capital of Ukraine. So,
right.
Sometime in the first decades of the 10th century CE, a young Igor was married to a likely younger girl named Olga. And there was much rejoicing, as it was an happy occasion. Soon the happy couple had a wee son named, and I'm going to nail this, Sviatoslav, and all was well. So Igor's medium-sized fiefdom was bordered by another fairly powerful group of Vikings called the Drevlians. And
I love those guys.
Yeah, they're the best. They weren't exactly enemies, these two groups, as they had occasionally joined up to fight common enemies in times past. As Igor and his Kievan Rus were traditionally more powerful and offered protection, the Drevlians had paid tribute in exchange for that protection. Now, pro tip, if someone is making you pay protection money, it's almost always to protect you from them.
Right.
Not some outsider. They may occasionally do that too, but that's not really how it works. So,
hate for something bad to happen to those nice horned hats you got over there.
Hate for your ship to tip over, huh? Let me protect it. So anyway, when Igor's badass dad Oleg died and left him the throne, the Drevlians gambled they could skip the payments, and so they did. So Igor set out for Drevlian territory to see what their deal with on-time payments was. So, when he got there, not only did the Drevlians refuse payment, they fucking murdered Igor by pulling down 2 trees, tying 2 of his limbs to each one, then slashing the lines, holding the bent trees to the ground, tearing him asunder, and no doubt providing the inspiration for M. Night Shyamalan's taut 2008 Mark Wahlberg smash hit thriller, The Happening, in which the trees of Earth convince us all to kill ourselves. About this there can be no doubt. So,
the most ironically named movie ever.
Literally nothing happened. So, that was super fucked up, but an innovative response to pesky debt collectors for sure. So, suddenly...
I'm going to try that one.
Does that...
Yeah.
Does that technique have a name?
No,
Tree
it
spraying?
should.
Yeah.
It's called deforestation.
Arborside. So suddenly widowed and soon-to-be tree-phobic Olga was informed of her widowhood by 20 smarmy Drevlian noblemen who boated upriver to give her the bad news wrapped up in a little non-consensual good news, that being that she was now free to marry the murderer of her husband, some jagoff named Prince Mal. She is quoted as responding to these noblemen thusly. It's a little bit weird, so, bear with me. Your proposal is pleasing to me indeed. My husband cannot rise again from the dead, but I desire to honor you tomorrow in the presence of my people. Return now to your boat and remain there with an aspect of arrogance. I shall send for you on the morrow, and you shall say, we will not ride on horses nor go on foot. Carry us in our boat, and you shall be carried in your boat. So, this will make sense in a second. So the following day, the good people of Kiev...
that's a hell of a response to a proposal.
Yeah, she's pretty composed, all things considered, right? So the following day, the good people of Kiev went to the river and lifted the beaming noblemen in their boat and carried them into the royal court, where they expected the surrender of the Kievan Rus in the form of Olga's acquiescence to marry Prince Mal, and were surprised instead to find themselves being dumped into a trench and quickly buried alive.
Yeah.
During their terrifying last moments, Olga inquired if they found this honor to their taste. So it was on between Olga and the Drevlians.
Yeah.
So because revenge is a dish best served really fucking quickly, Olga immediately sent a messenger saying she had accepted the marriage threat and asked for their most distinguished men to be sent to escort her to Dereva, which is the place where Drevlians come from, with the honor befitting the upcoming marriage union. So, because they did not yet know of the fate of the 20 negotiators, they did send their noblemen.
Right.
So, when they arrived, she said she would greet the sweaty travelers after they had a luxurious bath in the public bathhouse. And so they stripped and entered for a royal pampering and a good schwitz. Instead, the doors were sealed and the place was set on fire, burning the entire contingent alive.
My God.
Damn.
Oh,
Mother of dragons.
Yeah, right.
She's just getting started. So, now can you guess what she did? Can you guess?
I'm going to guess that there's a trick involved. She's good at tricks.
She sent another messenger to say they were en route with the whole noble retinue, and so to prepare a massive feast with all the booze they could muster for her to properly mourn her husband, which was like a pagan thing when they had like a huge celebration rather than a funeral. When people died,
but we still do the drinking thing.
Oh, for sure. So she said find all the booze they could possibly find so she could properly mourn her husband, therefore clearing her conscience for the wedding to come. She was like, seriously, so much booze. Get all the fucking booze.
Right.
Such are the depths of my mourning. They can only be filled with booze. And so they did, because obviously Drevlian is ancient Russian for gullible idiot. She took her best warriors with her as royal escort and wept and wailed at her husband's grave. Her guys were under orders not to actually drink, but to behave as if they were to coax the much larger Drevlian force into getting plowed. And what followed was the obvious inspiration for Joseph Smith's 1830 smash hit, The Book of Mormon, where Nephi kills a drunk and sleeping Laban because Olga's men are said to have killed 5,000 drunk
God.
Drevlians. And as we've always said when we've discussed the ancient Kievan Rus judicial system at great length on this show, it's firm but fair. So, she and her guys returned to Kiev after obviously inspiring the events George R.R. Martin would later call the Red Wedding. She gathered her army to go finish off the Drevlians because, as we know, revenge is a dish best served via an agonizingly bloody 16 courses, and she hadn't even gotten to the cheese yet.
Oh, my God.
She chased what was left of the decimated society inside the walls of their capital, Iskorosten, where they managed to hold out against her siege for more than a year somehow. Suddenly bored with the glacial pacing of episode 4 of her fast-paced first season, she offered what seemed like a reasonable end to the siege. She sent word that if each household behind the walls gave her 3 pigeons and 3 sparrows as payment, she would lift the siege and let them live.
I smell another trick.
Yeah.
I smell a
You
trick.
think?
It sounds a little too good to be true.
Also, why does everybody have birds? Stop.
Apparently, it
very
was
strange.
a very bird-based economy. Now, if you're anything like me, 2 bird gift verses from the 12 Days of Christmas seem like a reasonable alternative to total annihilation, right?
Sure.
And so did the remaining Drevlians, who eagerly handed over their 6-bird surtax. And that was the end of that. Ha!
Psych.
No, it fucking wasn't. Have you been following this woman's character arc at all? She had her soldiers tie a chunk of sulfur to each bird with a long bit of string. And
Oh my gosh.
as Uncle Dan no doubt knows, this inspired the 550 BCE smash hit, The Book of Judges, in which a rapey idiot called Samson ties the tails of 300 foxes together and lights them on fire to burn up a dry-ass cornfield in the most efficient way humanly possible. And so too did Olga's nightmarish animal cruelty gambit pay off, as Iskorosten was burned to the ground when the flaming birds were released to fly back home.
Jesus Christ.
She had She had anyone fleeing the burning city hacked to bits or given away as slaves if they weren't singed too badly. And at last, the Drevlians were fully fucking broken.
Okay, this woman's a saint?
Oh, and I'm going to get to that. We haven't even gotten to the saint part yet. So I know you're asking, wowie, this is some major mass murdering, justified or not, for such a holy figure as a Catholic saint. And if you know anything about religion generally, the Old Testament at all, or just Catholicism specifically, a huge body count derived from horrendous suffering is more than enough to get you a book under your own name.
Yeah.
Or at very least a sainthood. Huh. But is that why war queen par excellence Olga of Kiev is a saint in both the Eastern and Western churches? Nope, it's not. She's a saint because in 957, she went to Constantinople and decided to become a Christian. And, as we well know, murdering thousands upon thousands of human beings isn't disqualifying at all if one wants to become or remain a Christian, unlike, being gay or maybe black. So,
right.
Olga became a Christian, went home to Kiev, and despite her impressive skills at revenging, she wasn't really able to convince too many people to convert, not even her son Sviatoslav, but she did watch over Sviatoslav's children while he was off carrying on the family business of killing the shit out of people. And she had a lot of sway over her grandson Vladimir, who then would later go on to become a Christianizing ruler in pre-Russia, therefore making her a post hoc Christian super saint.
Oh my
I guess.
God.
And that is why Olga,
there is nothing worse than meddling grandparents who take your kids to church. That is some bullshit right there.
If we've learned anything from Saint Olga, it's that.
Yes.
And that is why Olga is a saint. She is a saint to Christianity in the same way my long-dead grandmother is a podcaster, I guess. So, unlike most saints, she is credited with no miracles. She is the patron saint, only the patron saint of widows and converts, and, most obviously, the city of Winnipeg. Seriously. It's true.
Why?
That's good.
But this Joan Wick of the 10th century Russia is not just venerated by the followers of Jesus, the Prince of Peace. She's inspired plenty of art and fiction, as you can imagine, over the years, and not just that of M. Night Shyamalan, Joseph Smith, and George R. R. Martin. She also inspired a conceptual album by French metal band Gorod called A Perfect Absolution, released in 2012. I wish we could play some for you on the show, but there's such a thing as copyright infringement, Andrew tells us. The song titles include Sailing into the Earth, referencing the guys dumped out of their boat and buried alive. 5,000 at the Funeral, for obvious reasons. And Birds of Sulfur, commemorating her incendiary bird incident. And it's actually pretty amazing, super virtuosic music if you're into high-speed raging metal, which I am ever since I read about Olga, the Widow from Hell.
Yeah.
So keep those requests coming in, heretics. The lines are open. That is the story of that little babushka Dan mentioned from Russia.
Gotta love it.
Don't fuck with Olga.
I do not.
Jesus.
Well, thanks for that. I'm now eager to visit. I mean, between that and me having finished Chernobyl, I am super stoked to go to Eastern Europe now. So
yeah, the Ukraine's where it's at.
Let's.
I think technically she killed more people than Chernobyl.
She did. She very much did. Yeah. But Chernobyl, give it time. It's
Chernobyl was a reactor, and I think Olga was an overreactor.
Boo.
She was proactive, not reactive.
Yeah. All right, let's move on.
All right, let's move on. Hey, Uncle Mark.
Hi.
When last we left our Mormon heroes,
yes,
they were in peril as their brave leader had pepperboxed his way to heaven.
That's right.
They were pretty much all the way dead, was what had happened there. So that's the end of Mormonism, I guess, right, Doug?
That's the end of that. Yeah. Well, yeah, exactly. Last week was kind of the Empire Strikes Back of the Mormon origin story, where the hero and his crew were laid low. And today I thought we could talk about the second half of that inciting incident of the modern Mormon religion.
Yeah.
And dear uncles, for those unlucky enough not to be living in the pretty great state of Utah, I'll get sick of that joke someday.
But pretty great state.
For the 9 people who think it's funny, I'm one of them.
That was a tremendously famous marketing misfire by our friends at the state of Utah a few years back.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah.
For those people, July 24th is just a normal summer day, but for those of us fortunate enough to call the state of Deseret our home, July 24th is a major state holiday, marked by parades, fireworks, and, of course, closed liquor stores.
Yes.
Yes.
It marks the anniversary of the day Brigham Young led his weary followers out of the mouth of the coincidentally named Emigration Canyon into the Great Salt Lake Valley and declared...
That was a piece of luck, wasn't it?
and declared, this is the place. So last week we covered the death of Joseph and Hiram, and today in part 2... I'd like to talk about how a Protestant sect born in New England and forged into metal on the banks of the Mississippi River became a desert religion inextricably linked to the Rocky Mountain state of Utah. Today, let's talk about the great Mormon migration that has become the much-exaggerated origin story of the modern LDS Church.
Yes.
So,
the Exodus, if you will.
Mm-hmm. Very much so. So, as we discussed last week, the Mormons had met, let's say, with less than hospitable circumstances in Ohio, Missouri, and Illinois, culminating in an angry mob murdering their prophet in 1844. We covered the power struggle that ensued and how Brigham Young became the leader of that fractured church back in episode 77. But just to recap, Joseph Smith had left no instructions on who should succeed him.
Incorrect. He had left instructions that were then ignored.
Well, that's true.
By the Brighamites.
Right.
His instructions were that his son was going to be the...
Hey, I really appreciate you not correcting me on the show.
Incorrect!
Yeah. His son who was, what, 14?
It was a child. Yeah,
he was like 12,
yeah.
But that didn't stop an entire offshoot to
making him their guy.
That's right.
and
becoming the other.
Yep.
The other Mormons.
And there's Strangites and Rigdonites that all broke off at the time, but the vast majority followed Brigham.
Yeah.
So Brigham had convinced the vast majority of Mormons he was their guy and would lead his church would lead the church until his death in 1877. He is by far the longest-serving president of the church and is often referred to as the Mormon Paul. Since most of the actual doctrine and culture of Mormonism came from him rather than Joseph, I think it's just as apt to call him the Mormon Stalin, since his long reign was marked by violence, repression, and fear.
I like to call him the Mormon Miscavige.
Yeah. You're both right. They all apply. Yeah.
Well, today we'll talk about how he gained the nickname of American Moses. So back in episode 44, which was almost exactly a year ago, can you believe it? I think we should turn the 24th of July into a tradition where we talk about some chapter of the Mormon pioneer story.
I don't see how we could avoid it.
So the first Mormon pioneers who came and settled in the Salt Lake Valley is the subject of our talk today. So even before Joseph was killed, the Mormons were eyeing the West and had been discussing the possible relocation of the saints outside of the country that had treated them so badly. And although the Mormons definitely had a role in the bad blood that existed between them and, well, everybody, the violence that was directed at the Mormons was often carried out on women and children and is a stain on American history, albeit a very small stain on a particularly large and dirty garment. So, and remember,
like
it was literally...
Baltimore.
That's right. Exactly. It was literally legal to kill Mormons at this time in Missouri.
Jesus. Wow.
That was on the books. So
there was an extermination order.
That's right. So, however, the Mormons had been forced out of several states before finally turning what was a swampy bend in the Mississippi River in Illinois into their own capital city of Nauvoo. They had invested heavily in the city and were loath to leave, partly because they knew they would only recoup pennies on the dollar from their neighbors. They knew this because it had happened to them already in their many forced migrations. By the time the Mormons decided to leave Nauvoo, it was nearly the size of Chicago in Illinois. It was a huge city.
Not current Chicago.
No, not
Chicago.
current Chicago.
Chicago then.
Okay, you're still getting a little on my back over here. Get all the way off my back. But the death of Joseph and Hiram did not end the violence and hostility towards the saints. And so Brigham made the decision that the United States was no place for Mormons and began looking for a new home out west. He specifically wanted land that nobody else wanted because pretty much every time a Mormon had a neighbor, one of them ended up dead. So Brigham consulted with trappers, mountain men, and Jesuit missionaries and settled on a specific valley in the Great Basin. It was remote enough that they could set up their own nation, and the surrounding mountains would act as both a defense and a source of fresh water. So the Mormons began making plans for this trek in 1845 and 1846. As you might imagine, uprooting well over 10,000 people, disposing of all their property, and securing enough oxen, wagons, and supplies to move them 1,500 miles was quite an undertaking. It should be mentioned here that Brigham Young was not a creative man, but he was an organized one.
Yeah.
He had a knack for logistics matched only by his lust for poontang. Had Joseph been the one to lead the
Is that a word we use?
Poontang?
Yeah.
You know what?
Okay.
It's in my notes. It's not being corrected by the computer, so it's a real word.
There you go.
You spelled it properly, is what you're saying.
I did on the first try, which is crazy for me.
Can I quickly inject a point of order?
Yeah.
Do you guys remember? Were you guys taught this? Because you just revealed that Brigham actually had people scout out places for him and talk to him about where they might go.
I know where you're going with this. Yep.
I was not taught that as a young Mormon boy. I was taught that he had a dream and that he was being led by the Lord, and there was no planning. They just headed west and magically ended up exactly where he needed to be.
Exactly.
And at the crest of every valley, at the crest of every mountain, they'd look into that valley hoping this was the place.
Yep.
And it wasn't until they got to, just above 23rd East there that he finally said, I was taught that they had no foreknowledge, which is utter bullshit.
Utter bullshit. It would be also extraordinarily irresponsible.
Yeah.
Yeah, which I wouldn't put past him, but it would be deeply stupid. Because
that's not how you get to Salt Lake City, Utah. That's how you get to Blaine, Missouri.
That's right.
So it also bears mentioning that although this was the largest migration of a single group of people, this occurred during the height of westward expansion and manifest destiny. So again, when we were young, we were taught that this was kind of a unique chapter in American history, when that is not at all the case.
Right. That nobody was going west.
Right. That there were no other pioneers ever.
Right. People were moving west by the tens of thousands.
Right.
Most were stopping short and homesteading in the Great Plains or heading all the way to California or Oregon.
Yeah.
Because you'd have to be an idiot to come to here.
Exactly.
This place was a fucking barren desert.
Very much so.
Yes. You can imagine genius Brigham Young saying, I want to be by a body of water, but it must be dead. It must be useless to us and hot as balls.
And hopefully if you drink it, you'll die. Did you have one of those?
A poison lake.
Yes. What do you have in a lake but poisonous?
By the end of the 19th century, some 7 million people had trekked west. So,
holy shit.
The Mormon migration is part of that story, but only a part.
In 1849, it was about to explode, right? With the California Gold Rush.
Exactly. So, in the winter of 1846 and 7, Brigham had set up a camp on the Missouri River, which he imaginatively named Winter Quarters. This would be the jumping-off point for all the expeditions that would follow. And in April of 1847, the Vanguard expedition set out. The Vanguard Company would break trail, try and establish fords and ferries over the many rivers they would have to cross, and they even planted crops that later companies could harvest on their journey. This first party consisted of 143 men, including 3 slaves, also something not taught to us when we were kids.
Yes.
3 women and 2 children. Brigham was among the ranks, as were others that to our ex-Mormon listeners will surely recognize, like John Taylor, Parley P. Pratt, Orson Hyde, Erastus Snow, Heber C. Kimball, and Wilford Woodruff. Many of these guys would go on to be prophets of the church in their own right.
There were only 2 children in the entire company?
That's weird. That first company, yeah. Huh. And the only reason they brought 3 women, weirdly, is for
Saturday night.
Yeah, right. Erastus Snow's wife was sick, so he didn't want to leave her, and they brought 2 other women to tend to her, and that's the only reason there are any women, which is kind of weird.
Still, helped for Saturday night.
Exactly.
I love that. My wife is sick, so the best remedy is for her to walk 2,000 miles across the wilderness.
So the company was also made up of 73 wagons, 1 cannon, 93 horses, 52 mules, 66 oxen, 19 cows, 17 dogs, and an unknown number of chickens. So,
God damn it! I need to know.
They counted everything but the chickens. So
that could be 1 million. It could have been mostly chickens. That seems an irresponsible oversight. I'm sorry, Brigham's stock is plummeting.
They walked from 7 a.m. to 8:30 p.m. every day except Sunday, averaged between 14 and 20 miles, especially during the plains part of the walk. Mm-hmm. Crazy side note, and Dan, you know this, a guy named William Clayton was tasked with calculating how far they traveled each day. He did this at first by counting the revolutions of a wagon wheel and then calculating that out at the end of the day.
Right.
That's fun. So surprisingly, he got a little tired of that, and he and Orson Pratt designed a mechanism that used wooden cogwheels to count the revolutions for them. Don't ask me how it worked. I tried to figure it out, but in true pioneer spirit, gave up after a few minutes and turned on Netflix. The design is the thing that they dubbed the rodometer and is what most modern odometers are actually based on.
Yeah. They invented that.
Yeah.
Really?
That was pretty cool.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
For the first leg of the trek, the Mormons broke
They
their
can
own
count the
trail.
wagon wheel rotations, but they can't count chickens. Okay, fair.
All I'm saying is all of it was worth it for the odometer, right?
I like my odometer. On the first
What
leg,
would I
the
do
Mormons-
without my odometer?
Exactly. The Mormons kind of broke their own trail at first because they didn't want to go along the more populated Oregon Trail in order to avoid inevitable bloodshed.
And dying of diphtheria. What did you die of when you played Oregon Trail?
Oh, that's
you
right.
Dysentery. You have died of dysentery.
That's right. When they got to Fort Laramie, they went ahead and took the Oregon Trail by that point, and they were joined by some smaller groups of Mormons in the area and some of the Mormon Battalion, which we'll talk about some other time. Along the way, they met Trapper Jim Bridger, who was at first very friendly to the Mormons and gave them advice how to get through the Wasatch Mountains to the Salt Lake Valley. However, over time, Bridger would sour on the Mormons because of their treatment of the local Indians. Please see the above-mentioned references to Mormons and neighbors. Bridger would have a very interesting part to play in the Mormon-Utah War of 1857, which contributed to the Mountain Meadows Massacre, which we talked about in episode 51. Also a story for another day. Just a quick note on the Native Americans in that area. The area was inhabited, obviously, mostly by sub-tribes of the southern Paiutes, Utes, and Shoshones. Mm-hmm. Weirdly, and definitely unbeknownst to Brigham, the Salt Lake Valley was at the time kind of a demilitarized zone between the Utes and the Shoshones, who were at war.
Huh.
Yeah. But the whole rest of the area was inhabited, and the Mormons treated them with the same casual genocidal attitude that everybody else did.
Yeah.
Now I just want to see Mormons move into all the demilitarized zones.
Go to the DMZ, fuckers.
The North and South Koreans just watching in bafflement as a bunch of Mormons show up and start setting up shop in their little... Anyway,
Just one strip mall from end to end across the Korean peninsula.
As they made their final push to the mountain passes, many members of the group took sick with mountain fever. Probably caused by wood ticks. Brigham himself became very ill and made the last leg of the journey bedridden. Finally, on July 21st, Erastus Snow and Orson Pratt were the first two Mormons to enter the Salt Lake Valley. They did a brief reconnoiter and immediately began diverting water from what would be called City Creek and planted potatoes and turnips. Yum.
Yeah.
Days later, on July 24th... Go ahead, sorry.
No. Okay. I didn't realize they did that before Brigham arrived.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. On July 24th, a few days later, Brigham Young entered the valley and spoke the immortal words, "This is the right place, drive on."
Yes. And who was driving? Who was driving, by the way?
Heber C. Kimball, actually.
Well, wasn't it Green Flake?
Green Flake?
I think Green Flake was driving Brigham's wagon. He was his slave.
Well, it certainly doesn't say that on the monument.
No.
Well, it also doesn't say this is the right place on the monument.
I know, right? And the drive on.
The monument says this is the place, and everybody thinks he says this is the place.
Yeah. I mean, it's a good thing Brigham Young wasn't the first man to walk on the moon. We're here. For contrast, can I just read you Mark Twain's first words upon seeing the Salt Lake Valley? Quote, "All the world was glorified with the setting sun, and the most stupendous panorama of mountain peaks yet encountered burst into our sight. We looked out upon the sublime spectacle from under the arch of a brilliant rainbow." Now that's how you sell a motherfucking valley, yo.
And then he wrote about the Mormons, and things went very much downhill from there.
Exactly. We should talk about that.
And then he met
sometime.
Brigham Young, and it was over.
Yeah, it did not go well.
Yeah.
So the Mormons immediately began laying out the city and planting crops. Brigham and many of the company did not stay long, leaving to return to winter quarters in August to lead more companies west. By December of 1847, more than 2,000 Mormons had made the trek. So,
wow.
Once in Salt Lake, Brigham immediately dispatched groups to explore and settle anywhere there was water, which was not a dumb strategy, as whoever controlled the water controlled the land.
Right.
This led to Mormons settling most of the current cities in Utah, like Cedar City, Manti, Ogden, St. George, but also to Mormons settling southwest cities like Las Vegas and San Bernardino, California, among others.
Yeah.
Yeah. The end of the Mormon migration period is generally thought to have ended with the completion of the Transcontinental Railroad in 1869, although, as we've discussed, some Mormon immigrants were still so poor they had to make the overland trek after the railroad's completion.
Yeah,
So,
with their fucking hand carts. Unbelievable.
Yep. But in that period of time, about 70,000 Mormons made the trek across Iowa, Nebraska, Wyoming, and Utah, and then on to whatever settlement Brigham Young demanded they go to. Brigham's dream of an independent sovereign nation based on the noble principles of polygamy, slavery, and himself was as grandiose as it was short-lived. For a laugh, listeners should Google the map of Brigham Young's original idea of the state of Deseret.
Yeah, the Empire of Deseret.
Yeah, it encompasses all of Utah and Nevada, most of Arizona, parts of New Mexico, Oregon, Wyoming, Idaho, and California, including the seaport of San Diego. So that's kind of that's at least the end of that part of the story. So the Mormons, that was the first trek west. Brigham and his crew were the first ones to enter the valley. But for a fun little coda on this, there is actually a 1940 film called Brigham Young, directed by Henry Hathaway, the same guy who directed the original True Grit and How the West Was Won. This movie stars Dean Jagger as Brigham Young, John Carradine, father of David Carradine, as Porter Rockwell, kind of the coolest character in the movie.
Yeah, by far.
And Vincent Price as Joseph Smith.
Shut the fuck up. I did not know that.
I did not know it until I was watching it. I'm like, is that Vincent Price?
Younger listeners might not know who Vincent Price was, but he was this gloriously wonderful villainous character. You know, actor always played these amazing villains, right?
Yeah.
And so this is right in keeping with that pattern.
Yeah.
Yes, indeed.
It's a old black and white movie. It's epic in the scale of the time when, you know, they didn't really care how many horses they killed in production.
No. Yeah.
And it's not good. It's wildly historically inaccurate. But watching Vincent Price get shot out the window as Joseph Smith is pretty funny. The pratfall is pretty hilarious.
I love how gay his portrayal of Joseph Smith must have been.
It's so gay. And the only place I could find this movie to watch the other day was on an RU website, so I'm sure my computer's a bot farm now.
Yeah, exactly.
But for you, dear listeners, I endured. So, yeah, there it is. This is the place.
I'll be damned. Well,
And a few years, just a few years after that, 3 audio uncles were to meet and say, "This is the podcast."
Indeed.
Yeah.
We'll have to have our next meetup at the This Is the Place State Park.
Yeah.
Oh, it's pretty grim up there.
Thank you, Uncle Doug. Let us move onward.
Forward.
Well, fellas.
Hello.
Yeah.
You know, we are, in spite of all that we say, entirely listener supported as a show.
That's right. That's right.
All of our bills are paid by the good folks whose ears we touch.
The other patrons are just aspirational. You are the real ones.
Yes, indeed. That we do aspire to slap chop kinds of levels, but until we get there, it is just you, the listeners, and we have a couple people to thank this week. New listeners, Holly by golly, and Neil. That was her name. Now it's not me making a play on the name. I suppose her. Anyway, Holly by golly and Neil. Thank you guys so much for your contribution.
Thank you, guys.
If our other listeners suddenly realize, wait a minute, I'm listening to this for free. I'm not chipping in at all. I could totally chip in.
Yeah.
You know what you can do? You can pause the show right after I say this sentence, which is go to howtoheretic.com, click on the support us or whatever the fuck it says. I always get corrected.
Yeah.
And that takes you to the Patreon thing. You sign up. It's super easy. You pick how much you want to donate to us,
And then double it.
and then quadruple that. Stop being such a cheapskate,
Set
And
it
then-
and forget it.
and then you're done, just
Yeah.
like a slap chop.
Yep.
So
and if you can afford to sponsor us or send us a slap chop, go to any place you can give 5-star reviews. Give us 6, give us 10. Don't stop. Give till it hurts. And we love you. And we'll see you on the other side. Well, Uncle Doug.
Hello.
We talk about all sort of things on this show, and I feel like we fearlessly approach our subject matters.
Yes.
Which is weird that today I'm feeling a little fearful about the subject matter.
Why is it that whenever I do a how-to, you guys get all terrified and shit?
I think you should ask yourself that question, Dan.
I think I'm just braver than you are.
That must be it. So tell us, Dan, what are you how-toing today, buddy?
Okay, here's the deal.
Yeah.
Our show, I don't know if you guys are aware of this, our show has a religious bent to it. Have you guys caught on to that? Has that sort of revealed itself to you?
I mean, I think you're reading between the lines, but sure.
I thought it was more about bird law.
Yeah. It is.
I mean, sport.
It's mostly those things.
Yeah.
But occasionally we dip our toes into the world of religion.
We are the Andrew Torres of bird law. There's no question about that.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah.
But I will say this. Here's the deal. I have embarked myself on a bit of an interesting journey, which is that I have started to ask myself, not what is my religion, because I don't think people need a religion. But, when I first started doing Thank God I'm Atheist, and when I, sort of injected myself into the world of post-religion and non-religion, a lot of people would write in and say, well, look, there's a bit of a void where church used to be. I don't know what to do with that void inside of me. I used to have a bunch of rituals that I would do that made me feel good, or I used to have a bunch of beliefs that made me feel secure, and so that got me thinking about what I would do. What if I were to create my religion, not a religion for anybody else. Because I don't have that particular brand of psychopathy, but mine is very different.
Yeah.
But I thought, what if I just wanted to? What would mine look like? What are the things that have come to be my ethos? What could my practices be that I would find helpful, that I would find useful, etc. So I thought you and I, fellow uncles, could sort of delve into what is the baby and what is the bathwater when it comes to religion, and what might be helpful. So that's where I started. Now I did go and try and figure out how we define religion, and I'll tell you what, Wikipedia has an entire page devoted to just the definition of religion. Not defining religion, but a discussion of the definition of religion, because it's not easy. We like to think that it's pretty easy, but scholars cannot agree. Nobody can really agree. And dictionaries are fairly unhelpful. So a lot of people think that that it must include worship of a supernatural being. A lot of people think that it's just sort of an ethos or a series of dogma. So I don't know. I don't think we need to get too hung up on that. I think what we can think of, what we can talk about, and what we can ask ourselves is what is important in our lives? What should our focuses be? And what do we think? What kind of practices do we think could be helpful for the way we live our lives?
Well, I think that's, just to touch on that definitional issue on religion is, when does a religion cease to be a religion and start just being a belief system? Because we all have belief systems.
Sure.
That, whether we acknowledge it or know it or think about it, there are certain things we think about the way the world is or should be, and that's kind of what motivates us to. But I think like most post-religious people, we've worked very hard to labor under a belief system rather than a religion, because religion to most of us is kind of a dirty word.
Absolutely.
Right, because it entails all of not just the dogma, the believing in things that can't be proven. It also brings with it all of the damage and the baggage.
Yeah,
Sure.
the abuses, the attendant abuses that are almost impossible to carry on in a system like that without occurring.
Right.
Yeah.
Great. So use another word if you like to. Let's call it a philosophy.
Sure.
But the thing that I like about the word religion is philosophy very rarely has a practice to it. You know what I mean? Like, you can have a philosophy about life, or you can sort of follow certain philosophical guidelines, and those can guide your the way you live your life. But they don't include any ritual, usually. They don't include practices. And I've suddenly come to the thought that maybe practices are useful to humans. It's why, people do meditation. It's why people do yoga or whatever. So I just think, maybe we can start to see it not as religion, but we can start to see that religion has some things to offer us. It's clear that because, sort of metaphysical, comprehensive worldviews have popped up in basically every culture on Earth.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's something that we need. It's something that humans do. It seems useful to us.
Clearly, there's an appeal.
Yeah.
Right, because it might be less popular now than it's ever been, but it's still very, very, very popular.
Well, and how many people do we know that have left, a dogmatic Christian or Jewish religion only to sort of dive into some spirituality or, some sort of woo or whatever?
Well, here's just, put this on the table. If religion was not taught to anybody before they were 18 years old, would anybody be religious?
It's a great question.
You know what I mean?
Superstitious, maybe.
Maybe. But I mean, so many people practice the religions of their parents and grandparents because, so I don't know
the vast majority of people who practice religions are practicing the one that they were, quote unquote, born into.
Or a variation of the one they were born into.
They were all lucky enough to be born into the true religion.
That's right.
Yeah.
But, that being said, there's some kind of an appeal that incredibly intelligent people who in every other part of their lives are pragmatic, that think things through, they still go to church on Sunday. And we could name all of our favorite people who are still somehow clinging to religion.
Right.
It fills a void in their lives, or it services them in some way.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's undeniable.
Yeah.
So I started to craft a few tenets. Like, I just started to jot down what types of things are important to me. And I'm going to say a few of those. You guys stop me and say feel free to say that sounds stupid or that sounds great or, what your take on it would be. But here are just a few, and in no particular order, because I was thinking about the things that I like about religion and the things that I definitely don't like about religion.
Sure.
So the first thing that I wrote down is that everybody's path is their own, which is sort of an idea of honoring everyone else's and yourself as people who have a path that they are allowed to define and not you.
You could boil that down to nunya.
That's right.
Right.
That's right. The principle of nunya.
Yeah. None your business.
Correct. So accepting difference is a big thing for me. I wrote down the phrase "everyone is your guru," not because everyone is smart and has something really brilliant to tell you, but that everyone's human and that the more you interact with them, the more you can learn about what humanity is about. Because I do think that every bit of humanity is in every one of us. Like, whatever it was that tweaked in Charles Manson exists in me somehow. And the more I can learn about me,
you can't see me backing slowly towards the door right now.
Sure. But, also everything about all the cool people is in me also. So, okay, God damn it.
No, I mean,
I quit the show.
Hardware,
I quit the show.
The hardware is likely almost entirely similar. The software is certainly generally not super. I don't know if it feels a little universal to me, but I'll allow it.
Here's the thing. I could be wrong, and that's another pretty important part of my ethos is always I could be wrong.
Yes.
So
I strongly second that. Like, that is whenever I'm drawn into any kind of, some Christian wanting to combat online or anything, it's like, the difference between us is I start from I could be wrong. You come from this can never be wrong.
This can't. Right. It is impossible that this is wrong.
You have to enter any discussion, argument, or debate with leaving a door in your mind open to the fact that you could be convinced of something you don't currently believe.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sure. Yeah.
And so that gets to like part of sort of what I decided was the main thrust of my religion. Uncle Dan's personal religion.
Does it have a name?
Danism.
We call ourselves Danites. Anyway, self-confrontation is the thing that has become very important to me. And that is that, every time I think I know something, every time I get too certain of a thing, I got to ask myself some questions about it. As a matter of fact, everything that I see, every time I have a feeling that makes me feel uncomfortable or makes me feel confused, that's a great time for me to ask questions of myself. And to the extent that I am capable of it, not lashing out in those moments, not getting angry, not getting hurt, or not getting all of these ways that we respond to the world not working in the way that we thought it did. Those are moments where if I can have the presence of mind to self-confront rather than aggress outward, I feel like that's the smart thing to do, or that has served me well in the past.
Well, and I think we can all agree to this. I don't think I've ever won a Facebook flame out or a Twitter war at all, because I don't think you can.
No.
But, I think you have to look at if you're willing to be self-reflective, you're almost certainly to be more successful in actually having a discussion with somebody.
Absolutely. The most impressive thing that anyone can do in a Facebook argument is accept responsibility. And to be compassionate too. Did you guys ever see the moment where Sarah Silverman confronted some Twitter troll and literally just started to say things like, "I'm sorry, it sounds like you were hurt by something."
Right.
Yeah.
And he's lashing out and calling everybody a bitch and a cunt and whatever.
Yeah.
And she just patiently was like, "Tell me about when you were hurt.
Why are you so angry? Why are you in so much rage?"
And I'm sorry about this, and it sounds like things were really painful for you. And it turns around so quickly.
Right. And it turned out he had chronic pain, and she's like, "Oh, well, let's see if we can find someone to help you with that." And she did. Someone did.
Wow.
Yeah. And it's like that's the only way that you're going to ever win a flame war is by not flaming.
Yeah. Well, I guess to your burgeoning religion, before we have a schism, I would contribute my, what I think is the fundamental to whatever faith I would create.
Yeah.
Empathy.
Love it.
Because, everything we're seeing right now in our world that is so horrifying, children in cages, this anti-immigrant fervor, pardon me, the anti-gay fervor that's growing around the world. It's just, if you could just see it from their perspective, you know what I mean? Like, just put yourself in the shoes of a mother carrying her child across Mexico. What that person is going through, what they're braving. And she's
just trying to bring drugs, Doug.
That's right. She's trying to get her anchor baby.
Right.
If you can put yourself into her mind for just a few minutes, and then you're still okay with her child being in a cage, then I don't know what to say to you, but I don't think you will.
Oh, sure. You're okay with her, but when I say I'm Charles Manson, you get all judgy.
But I think, just being empathetic, just saying, and empathy for empathy's sake.
Yeah.
I'll empathize with you if you agree or you come to my side of the argument, or you see it the way I see it.
Right.
I just want to see the world through your eyes for a moment.
Yeah.
And I think
empathy is practice, right? As the yardstick by which you measure the world, right? Anyway, to me, and I know to you guys, and my humanism informs my atheism, and so I have to start from a place of empathy, even when I'm really pissed off, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, and the tricky part is, like, it's easy for us bleeding heart liberals to empathize with a mother carrying her child across the desert.
Yeah.
It's harder when someone asks you to empathize with Donald John Trump, or
hopefully no one ever asked me to do that.
Well, you're the one who said it's empathy. You were the one who was.
You know what? That is a fair point, and I would say that I am on the record not being a fan, and.
You don't have to like people just to empathize with them.
No. But, I'm sure many others have thought about what it is that brought Donald John Trump to be what he is today.
Exactly right.
Because I don't know if I can put myself in his head now.
Right.
Yeah. But you can see the
dazzlingly stupid head.
Yes. Yeah. It was just a nest of rats.
Yeah.
Sorry, but true. But you can look at what the markers in his life.
Yeah.
The damage done to him by his father that he's now doing to his children.
Yeah.
The dysfunction.
To the world.
The fact that he cannot look at a woman as another human being. That happened to him.
Yeah.
Something happened to him in his past that made him this way.
Now that doesn't mean that because we've found an empathy for him, we have to let him just do whatever he wants. No. Or he's not responsible for his actions.
Right.
I think you can kind of hit the pause button on a character like that and say, yes, he has caused tremendous harm and will continue to cause tremendous harm until, he's 6 feet under. And yet his movement will continue to cause harm after that. But you can hit the pause button on all of that and like Doug was saying, look at the history that led up to this piece of trash.
Yeah.
And if he wasn't such a monster, it's pitiful. It's a pitiful, sad story of a human being, that maybe wasn't born emotionally defective like he is, but that was inflicted upon him.
Yeah.
And so it's sympathy for the fucking devil, and I know that's a weird thing, but that understanding of people makes them no longer two-dimensional, right? There are no saints, there are no villains. Everybody's someplace in between. And the act of empathy and trying to understand how a person arrived at a place is how you allow that depth of understanding to happen, right? As Dan was saying.
How are we going to distill this into a platitude? Because I feel like none of this works until we can...
It's
blessed
funny.
Are the peacemakers. No,
it's funny. You should say that. There's an exercise I've seen done where, in regards to the Ten Commandments.
Yeah,
the Ten Commandments are supposed to be God's perfect set of laws. That we've discussed on this show many times. Are far, 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 far from it. But if you gave everybody in a room a 3x5 card, a pen, and 5 minutes, they could come up with a code of living or something, some kind of a maxim,
right,
superior to the Ten Commandments. You know what I mean? Like, we could do this. We could say, like, okay, whatever this dictum is, your first.
You said dictum.
Your first thought of another person should be from their perspective, or something like that. Right?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's all of this is valid stuff. I think the point here is that I think there's value in sitting down and asking yourself, what is my value system? What is important to me? And then dig deeper. You know what I mean? Like, get under the thing. So if you say your value system is empathy, can you apply that to the hard cases? Can you keep applying that?
I think it's critical. If that is part of your value system, what's the point of empathy if you only apply it to those with whom you agree and whom you love?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Exactly.
If you apply it to the awful people in your life or in the world, then you also understand them better.
And so many people turn off empathy the second somebody isn't what they thought they were. Yeah.
Well, it's easier to just, cast somebody as a two-dimensional character.
Right.
Because, you see these people clamoring for people to be in cages.
Yeah.
I so viscerally disagree with that point of view that it is troubling for me to try and see what they might have a point, or to see what their point they think their point is.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, I don't want to do that.
It's so much easier to cast their point as to set up a straw person of their point,
right?
And just cast them as bad people. They're clearly just evil. They're stupid, or they're whatever. But no, they're not.
One of my first impulses whenever I see the pictures of and they're generally older, the frothing, screaming, snarling Trump supporters at his rallies, clearly attacking the press person who's taking their picture.
Right.
My real first impulse is, what happened to them?
Yeah.
Why are they doing this? Why are they behaving this way? And I'm sure I disagree with them about everything in this life, but I feel bad.
They just need to join Danism. It'll fix everything.
And I want to be clear about this too. Is part of, what certain philosophies are frustrating to me because at the end of the day, there's no course of action. Like, you can empathize with somebody and see the point of view, and they can still be fully, totally wrong.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
I get your point, but you are in every possible way incorrect.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, empathy doesn't mean I have to come over to your point of view or not act.
Correct.
If you're acting badly.
Right.
Right.
But if anything, it helps you understand how to go about pushing back against these things.
Yeah, I mean, and I think that this is one of the sort of overarching points that we've discovered is that the point of having a quote unquote religion or an ethos or something like that is that it's about relating to the self and relating to other people. And how can you do that in a way that's going to be most useful to you and to them? And I think that maybe that's the point, is that we need to continue to really work on how we do that in a way that best serves humanity.
Right.
Because, the hope, I think, of all three of these uncles is that religion would just go away. Mm-hmm. I don't think dogmatic religion is actually helpful. I think it hurts more than it helps. However, we still need to be able to interact with each other in a way that's going to be socially positive.
Yeah.
And I think this is sort of these thoughts and these, this work, and I think it needs to be a work. It needs to be something that we do are what's going to eventually get us there.
Well, and this is one of if there's a theme to this podcast, it's religious hypocrisy.
Right.
Right. If these are convictions and these are things that you want to live by, you're right. That you have to apply them when they're the hardest, which we see so many religious people immediately cast away. What are the harder parts of their religions when the going gets tough?
Right.
And if casting empathy is your dictum. Sorry, got to get you again. And then you don't do it when it's hard. Then it's not a part of your belief system. It's just something written on the dirty car window.
Yeah, you need to figure out something that's gonna guide you on a deeper level.
Right.
Or you need to find a way to commit more fully to your own philosophy.
Yeah.
Then again, I could be wrong.
Well,
there you go.
I'll tell you one thing, Uncle Dan. Very good. I think back on all the rituals and things we used to do as Mormons. Mm-hmm. There is not a one of them that I miss.
Right.
They didn't serve anything. They didn't serve anything. They were busy work. And busy work is, if a ritual is busy work, what's the fucking point?
I don't know. Maybe some people really dig that stuff.
I don't know. I mean,
sure.
I wish I'd been raised as a whirling dervish or something like that.
There you go. You are good at turning around. It's true.
You're very good at spinning.
Go out and have this conversation with your friends or something. I don't know. I've got nothing to offer so much as just questions, but I just thought it was an interesting question that has come up repeatedly since I started atheist podcasting. And I just wanted to get you guys' take on it. Mostly Mark's, so thanks for chiming in so much.
I really enjoyed listening to this segment, guys.
Get out there, listeners, and start yourself a cult, because we need material.
That's right. With that, let's just move on.
Let's move on.
Well, friends, that's it for this week's show.
Hey, we'd love to hear from you. If you've murdered thousands of people, send us an email, howto@howtoheretic.com.
Or if you found a valley to settle in, why don't you tell us about it in voicemail at 903-88-HOW-TO, which is 903-884-6986. I'm also on Twitter fairly frequently at HowToHeretic.
And thanks to our patrons.
And
that's right.
Yeah.
And thanks to Cody Layton for editing the show. Dan, is there something you'd like to say?
I just want to thank everybody for tuning in. You're great.
Bye, friends.
Bye-bye.